start recording here. All right, so while Zach's pulling that up, greetings everyone and welcome to the next session of the IlliniCloud webinar series featuring games and learning. So we have Zack Gilbert, who is going to be kind of walking us through some of the great stuff that he's been involved with. As everybody knows, my name is Jat Pannu. I'm the business and operations lead for IlliniCloud. And, we intend this to be an interactive session. So, most people are familiar with Zoom. Just type in your questions or comments into the chat window. And as they come through, we'll just kind of archive them or queue them up for when Zach's done with his presentation. We can kind of answer them in stride at the back half of the presentation. We only have 30 minutes, so things are going to be a little bit tight. Normally we schedule an hour for these things, but again, this session is being recorded. It will be on the IlliniCloud YouTube channel along with all the past webinars. So feel free to kind of go and check that out. And there's no restrictions to the channel. You can share it out and email it to anybody you want to. So with that, Zach, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself and we can get started.
Okay. Let me pull this up. Are you all seeing my screen just fine?
Looks good.
And if I do that, are you seeing the presentation?
I do.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hello everyone. My name is Zack Gilbert, also known as Ed Gamer. And Jat and Jim Peterson have been on me for a while to, hey, come on and talk about games and learning. And this is kind of my new little area that I've been focusing on, which is game clubs, esports, and something that I call flow, which I'll get into. And I know time-wise, we're going to be very short because I have this thing called a job. I have students that are, going to be coming in about a half an hour or so. So I'm going to go through some of this, and hopefully it'll give you a taste of what I've been doing and what's going on, and then how you can contact me to get further information about game clubs. So let's move on here. I am teaching now at Thomas Metcalf School. It's a K-8 building at Illinois State University. I taught 21 years in a local public school district, and I decided to take the jump into the university, and now I'm associated with the College of Education. So now I'm getting opportunities that I've never had before, projects, research, and such, and it's been a great experience just being my first year. So let's look at game clubs, and this is from one of my students in the past, and what does game club mean to me? And it kind of walks you through there. It's where you can be yourself and be with your friends, make new friends, and have fun. And that's the biggest part of game club. Game clubs allows students to have a safe place to play, and it's like no other club that you would have in your school. Another a parent and fellow teacher, it provides a place to connect, have fun with peers, an activity where many students find acceptance and change, a chance to be themselves. This previous school I went to, just to give you an idea here, Parkside Junior High School, we had 40 to 60 students, even up to 70 students every other week at our game club. And so 70 students, that's 10% of the student population. Right now I'm at Thomas Metcalf, and there's 30 to 40, some of my students are coming in now, 30 to 40 students, and that's only grades 5 through 8, and that's a total student population for grades 5 to 8 of 200. So I'm getting almost 20% of the student population for grades 5 through 8 in a building where there's a circus, there's mini sports and musicals and plays and other things that are going on. These kids are highly active, and now, coming in for my first year, and now I'm getting about 20% of the students, and it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. It's gone over very well. So one thing that I want to bring to the table here that's kind of new, that's since I've been here, that I've been talking about, and I've kind of created something called flow, and fun, learning, and others. And so this is an example of fun at my previous game club where, I just love this picture. true fun. They're playing a game called Snake Oil, and a tabletop game, and it's a blast and very creative, and creative to the point, where they're creating funny stories and of course enjoying themselves. So fun. What does fun mean? Well, this is the toughest part about fun, and the whole reason for flow is for me to focus on trying to make my lessons fit within this model every day. And it's not only just for my classroom, it could be for administrators, it could be really in any field of study, any work that you do. It's going to be different though for each person. So, having fun as a student, each student in my classroom, it's going to be a different experience. Some kids like to be challenged. Some kids want to just do silly things. Finding what's fun for each student is very difficult. Games though have reached a broader spectrum, and simulations and things like that have reached a broader spectrum than most of the things that I've done in my 22 years of teaching and doing things with Minecraft and building and creating. Those are highly enjoyable to the students. But as I mentioned, it's different for every kid, and that's what it makes it very difficult. Something fun for one student can be hated by another. As a teacher, I want to have fun. I want to have fun as an educator. I want to enjoy myself when I'm teaching. And it doesn't necessarily, like I said, it doesn't have to be fun. It can be something that's enjoyable, that it feels good. And then as an administrator, if you have all your teachers in your building, they're having a good time, and they're enjoying themselves, they're challenging themselves, that's definitely a positive. So the learning aspect, as an educator, we should always be learning. A mentor of mine early on said that if I stop learning, then I need to get out. As an educator, you're always learning. You're trying to model that for your students. And so, as I put there, rethink your profession if you just want to stop. You should constantly be learning. Another area that has come up, Sir Ken Robinson talks about it, manufactured learning. And it's came up with this idea that a certain percentage of students will always succeed, no matter their circumstances. So, I thought about the Titanic, because at the time it was, in the news, and I'm bringing it up, but this concept's been around for me for a while, is that just because people survived the Titanic doesn't make it a successful journey. But that's how I feel that we're treating some of our schools and our students, is that some students, no matter where you put them, they're going to succeed. Just like some people survived the Titanic, but there's a whole host of students that are not succeeding. And we need to rethink what we're doing in order to get them to succeed too. So how do we make, first of all, we make it fun. Learning needs to be fun, but we have to have some type of connection to that learning, and it has to have meaning. And that is difficult. That is difficult for a lot of classes, but we really need to step back and look at that and say, okay, I'm teaching U.S. history. This is kind of a deep concept, so bear with me on this. I'm teaching fifth graders beginning U.S. history, and we have deep divisions throughout our country, and you can look back to the beginning of people settling into the colonies, the 13 colonies. That geography and what was planted and what was done in those colonies as professions and jobs, and who moved there, really is really set up to why we have, part of why we have divisions in our country today. And that's really deep, but getting the kids to realize that some of the problems that we are dealing with, that we're trying to work through today, whether it's through race or socioeconomic problems, you can trace that all the way back to the beginning of our 13 colonies. And so trying to give meaning to what we're talking about to our students, that's a difficult thing to do. So others, helping others, building relationships, building communities, having authentic relationships. Students realize if you're being fake or not. Hemingway, I think it's called crap detection. Sorry for the language there, but kids really know if you're being authentic or not. So if you're trying to help somebody, or if somebody's trying to help them, they need to be authentic about it. You also need to think about, you have to have a safe environment for students to be able to share, to help others. But you also have to listen. So, you've got a lot of kids that are willing to share with other students, but you need to be open and listen. And part of me is I'm open and personal with my students. And so that kind of lends itself that I can build those relationships. So we need others to succeed. All these people here that are listed, Einstein, Tolkien, Rowling, John Wooden, they all needed other people to succeed. So the whole purpose of me bringing this up is, how to make the connection to games. But we also need to, if we're going to go through this flow process, you need to reflect to understand what you've actually learned. And that's super important. You can learn something, but if you don't reflect on it, is it really that meaningful? And thinking about flow for all situations. So when I think about game clubs, I think about what I do with my students, how I interact. Are they enjoying themselves? Kids choose what games that they want to play. We try to introduce them to new games. What are they learning from these games? And then others, being able to help others and listen and receive help. And that happens all the time within Game Club, happens all the time. So, why start a game club, right? Play games, playful learning, and then building a community. And it's grown. I have 2 game clubs running right now, and we have close to 100 students every other Friday that are participating. They're having fun, they're learning, they're building relationships, and they're building a community outside the school. So this is the rest of these slides that are in here is, I wrote a chapter, I co-authored a chapter with Sean Dickers, who's up at Bethel in St. Paul, Minnesota. And he wrote a book called Teachercraft on Minecraft. This is a free download. And this is all found on at edgamer.net. This presentation is the first one at the top for today. So Teachercraft, how teachers learn to use Minecraft in their classrooms. So chapter 6 is how to start a game club. And it basically outlines what you need to do in order to have a game club. And what to look for, what are your goals. So, why start a club? Well, students need to play without interference. One of the things that I don't know if education goes in cycles, but one of the things that I see is that I could do a lot of hand holding and spoon feeding in my classroom. And one of the toughest things to do, because I want to help my students, is to back off and let them learn, let them fail, and then learn from those mistakes. But Game Club gives you that opportunity that you're not feeling stressed as a teacher, that you have to guide them along. Game Club is you're discovering, you're trying to figure out, try a new game, pull out your phone, try to figure out, what are the rules of the game? Let's see if we can find a video, so on and so forth. So it's playing games without interference, and something that I did a lot as a kid. Watch and play as a teacher, see how games connect to learning. So the next step is that they start playing these games, and as an educator, I start seeing, oh, that game could be used in language arts, or that could be used in social studies, or that could be math. Every single game you play, there's math involved. And so math can connect to any game, especially tabletop games. Well, and digital games too, but we play a lot of tabletop games. And so math is involved, and you can figure that out. Science, you can pull in science games. What's really nice is when teachers start coming to Game Club and they start realizing, hey, I could use this in the classroom. And that's when the magic starts happening, is that when you start realizing that this playful learning can be utilized in the class, but this is a safe place to start. It's easier to start an after-school game club to demonstrate that playful learning. Instead of saying, I'm going to try this game in the classroom and not have much experience with the students. Now you can have the students beta test and test it out in the after-school club, and they can even lead the teaching of the game to the rest of the students. So it gives you a safe place to try as a teacher, so it can be integrated within the classroom. So don't be afraid to fail, learning. There's always learning involved. The stepping back and watch and learn. I feel I'm talking a lot. You guys are all hearing me, right?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. It's just, I'm looking at a black screen, and it's just like, not a lot of feedback. So any questions up to this point?
Yeah, so I just typed one in. So with kind of play for learning, games and learning, game theory, what have you, there's a community aspect to it. And, parents are a big part of that community.
Oh, yeah.
One of the questions that came in a different session, wasn't necessarily a webinar, but a different forum, what are the parent engagement strategies and communication strategies to address their concerns that, hey, my kid is playing games and not learning.
Right.
I mean, there's that gap where they see games for learning and game theory to be just, I'm spending my kid's time playing games instead of learning.
Yeah. So that was something I dealt with when I first started to try to bring games into the classroom. And I was very fortunate to have a administrator that was supportive of this. So, if you have a after school game club, inviting parents in, administrators, other people in to basically look at the games, and then even having those discussions with the parents. Okay, do you see this game? Do you see how, Settlers of Catan? I think it's going to be a perfect game for me to use to teach supply and demand and resources, utilizing your resources, and even how to communicate with others and barter and trade. So that is a great game. So, I can sit there and tell you that, but if you've played the game, all those things are true. So if you have a parent coming in after school and discussing that, you can show that to them. The other part is that, especially for me, knowing what my targets are, my learning targets, and then making sure that the students are connecting to that. So when a student is asked, why are you playing this game? They can say, well, I'm learning about trading. And in the game, in supply and demand, in the game, there's only a limited number of resources. And I need certain resources, and somebody else might have that. And so I try to trade with them in order to do that. So, the language that is used and setting that out to the students. And then I also communicate a lot of this information through my school website, and then discussing, basically I have an outline for the day that I take a screenshot and post that up every night. This is what we've done. These are the activities we've done. These are the targets that we're meeting. And then I've always invited parents. My door is always open. If you have any concerns, come on in. We'll be glad to show you what this can do. The first major game that I used was Civilization 4, and there were some concerns, and I had some parents come in, and once they saw what was going on, they were sold. So just being very straightforward and honest with the parents and the administrators, that really helps out. And then having the game clubs, I think is another safe place to try out the games. Even having the students recommend games that could be used in the classroom, and then have them write a proposal hey, I think this would be great for math. And then, I tell the kids, write a proposal, demonstrate this to your teacher, invite the teacher to game club, have them come and show, you can show them what this game can do, and just try to prove, make that proof to the teacher. Does that make sense, Jat?
No, great. Thank you.
Any other questions, or move along?
I think we can keep going.
Okay. So, stepping back, as I mentioned here, watching and learning, it's one of those things that this is for my new game club. And so that's my main classroom there. I got a workroom in the back. I've got another classroom down the hall that we've been using. Just sitting and watching what is going on in the classroom is really important. And like I said, this is for game club, but there's so much learning that's going on. Now, one problem that I've been noticing a lot lately is that there's learning happening. It's that understanding of the targets, but just in general of playing this game, if I went up to the kids and said, what are you learning? It's a game club. They're not really concerned about that. If I wanted to bring this into a classroom setting, then, if I told them I want to use this game in class, the one on the bottom left there is word on the street. I want to use this in class. Can you prove it to me that, it could be useful in meeting these targets? And if you put it that way, then the students would really start focusing on that and learn from it. But then I'm also giving them support. I'm also entrusting them with, trying to put this together. And then they can demonstrate that to the rest of the students. So they're going to feel good about themselves that, hey, Mr. Gilbert came to me and ask me to do this. And now the other students are going to recognize that, this is a skill that I have. So, but stepping back and watching is so important. Let it happen in front of you. So when you decide, if you decide you want to do a game club, I'm going to let you know, it's not one of those where it's like, oh, yeah, I'd like to have 10 or 15 students. And then, you're thinking, I'll probably only get 5. Most likely, if you're going to start a game club, your expectations are actually low. You're going to get a lot more students than what you think. The game club that I started here, I was thinking maybe 10 or 15, that'd be great because these kids are so busy. And like I said, we've been averaging, probably around 30. We've had 20. I've had over 40 kids. It's blown any expectations out of the water, and it's really blown the expectations from the parents, the staff, and the administration. So some ways to organize a game club. And, the rest of these, as I'm looking here, I got about, maybe 10 minutes, Jat, just to let you know. The rest of these slides kind of go into a little bit more information. And that link, TeacherCraft, you can download that book for free. And then, like I said, chapter 6 is the chapter you could go to look at game clubs. But I kind of summarize it in the rest of this presentation. So, how do you start a game club? So you have your game club, you meet. Some teachers, they'll have structure at the beginning. They might have students bring a game and say, demonstrate, like, hey, I brought this game today. This is what the game's about. I'd like to have some players join me. So you might have some structure. Sometimes I'll just say, we're only playing tabletop games for the first half, and then I'll open up to digital games in the second half. So, and then some will just have open play for the whole time. And it's fine.
So I think that's a great point, Zach. So I kind of typed that into the chat. So in terms of the requirements for bootstrapping a game club, for organizations, LEAs, what have you, that don't have gaming expertise in the leadership level. So let's say, for example, Jat doesn't know anything about games, but wants to start a game club because he's convinced that it has real value in terms of student achievement, but I don't know anything about games.
Right.
And I don't have anybody that works with me that knows anything about games.
Okay.
So what do I...
Now, are you talking as a teacher or administrator, or what do you, within a school, or just a...
Yeah, let's say within a school.
Guy in the community.
Within a school, teacher and or administrator,
So one of the things that I recommend is that put out, like I said, the rest of these slides go into it. You need to get administration on board. You need to figure out where you're going to hold your meetings. You need to figure out what day of the week. So the best thing you want to do is maybe seek out students that game. Just start with the students that you have, or even talk to guidance counselors and say, okay, hey, do you know some kids that game? Because most likely, if they're getting to know kids, they know the gaming kids. Or even put an announcement out. If you're interested in a game club, meet after school this time. And then what you can start doing is hashing out these ideas and getting students on board. And basically, I've had them write the expectations. What do we expect to do in game club? What are the expectations for the students? What type of games are you wanting to play? I'm going to tell you this, you don't even have to have any expertise in gaming. You're going to have enough students that are going to help you out, and you're going to have parents that'll want to help out too. And so you get that going, and then maybe you find another teacher down the road that might want to assist. But if you even put it into you tell the kids, I'm not a huge gamer. I know you want to do this. Can you help guide? Can you help me get this going and legitimize it? And once you start it, like I said, all you have to do is watch and learn from the students. They will show you the benefits of playful learning. So does that make sense, Jat?
No, it totally does. So in terms of kind of seeding the initial game club, and I know we're running low on time, what's the sweet spot in terms of grade levels for?
Well, so I'm in a K-8 building, and I have 5 through 8. I could probably go to 4th grade, but here's the thing. I've got the max I've had is a little bit over 40 students. That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids. And I've started to get more assistance on campus. I've got student volunteers now. I've got some community volunteers. I've got, different people from the community coming in. So, I've been getting more help. But you don't want to make it too big to where it's out of control. But depending on the size of your school, if it's just you by yourself, you're probably only going to want about maybe 20, 25 kids. That's a lot. It's a lot to manage. But I think fourth grade and above, you could do just fine. You start getting lower than that, it becomes very difficult. But junior high, perfect. Middle school is perfect. High school, you would be surprised how many kids would be willing to come because, it's too cool. Well, now we're starting to get into esports. And that's a whole nother conversation because that's about ready to explode across the country. So, so grades 4 and above, I think is good. Do we keep rolling here, Jat?
Yeah, no, keep going.
Okay, so, invite others to see the playful learning. I think we kind of talked about who, what, when, where, why, and how, have students set goals and guidelines, just what we talked about there. Family and friends, if you have gaming, family members are wanting to help out, administration, IT support, especially if you're doing digital games. You want to make sure that you have access to, everybody has easy access if you're doing online, anything online, but also charging and power and so on and so forth. Students, fellow teachers, parents, community. Another big one here, and this is a little advertisement. So Red Raccoon Games is a local game store, and they give discounts to educators if you use a purchase order. They give discounts to teachers, and then they'll give an even deeper discount if you have a purchase order. The one thing you want to be careful. You need to know and talk to people in the community. If you're not a gamer, you need to really know your game club, who owns it, because just as with any business, there are good ones and there's some interesting ones, and you want to make sure that you check that out. And Jamie Matthew at Red Raccoon Games has been wonderful. It's also good that his wife's a teacher, so he understands and has been very helpful. We have State Farm here in Bloomington Normal. They have grants and opportunities for community service. I have a parent that puts in 40 hours and I get a $500 State Farm Good Neighbor grant. I'm sure wherever you're at, there's other organizations that would be willing to help out and maybe even help out with volunteers. So as I said here, which club be about? Board and tabletop gaming, digital games, digital production. So I have kids that code and they've been modifying Civilization 4, basically creating their own version within the game. Physical production, that's one that I haven't started here yet, but actually having the students maybe doing a game jam where they create their own games. And then esports. And then esports gets into a whole nother realm, which, video production, posting videos. And that's like I said, that's another huge area. So where to meet? This is the library at my old school. And if I took the camera down the stacks down at the end of the picture there's kids in the stacks. I mean, they're scattered all throughout this space. It's nice to have a nice open space. So where should you meet? Table spaces, making sure you have chairs and power, everything there. If you need a projector, online connections, lighting, if you want snacks, depending on the room you're in, making sure you clean up after yourselves, having supplies, workspace, game storage, that's huge. We have, I don't even know how many games. I bet we're pushing 100. Making sure you have a safe place to put those games. Okay, and then when should you meet? Especially if you're an educator, making sure, I'm a husband and a father, and have a job. So making sure that you are meeting at a time that that works for you and your schedule. You want to be involved and not, you want to be there 100% and give the kids, your attention. So making sure that you can do that and making sure your schedule's cleared for that. I will tell you this, you get a game club started and you set times and you start canceling a lot, those kids will get upset. So making sure that once they're in, they're in. And you want to make sure that you keep to those times and meet. Only cancel if emergency situations, because it's, for a lot of kids, this is they look forward to this. Have it every other week. They look forward to it. I could meet every week and have this many kids. They look forward to this time. It's precious to them, and it's once you start seeing that, you really see the magic of it. So communicating why and establishing how. Meeting the group for the first time. This is kind of a quote from the book. These kids want to be here and they're coming after school to work. So to work, that's basically for setting it up, especially if you have any organizational meetings, for if you have officers, they're putting their time in to set things up. That's what it's kind of talking about here. And I'm going to move. This is kind of a, how and why. So having the kids come up with a mission statement, the student expectations, this is really important. What games and platforms, time. And one of the things with the games, making sure that's appropriate for school, right? You don't want somebody walking in and you're playing Cards Against Humanity. I don't think that would be that's a quick end to your game club. So making sure that you have appropriate games and the kids understand what those games are, having enough time, having a time frame. We have an hour and 45 minutes, so that gets the kids enough time to play multiple games, putting in announcements, advertising, and sponsorship and assistance. So those are some of the aspects there. And that's kind of what we came up with: respect, responsible, safe. Communicate to inform the teachers you're attending. So I have students tell me if they're coming, and then making sure parents are picking up on time. So, Jat, I think we're getting very close there. I'm going to kind of pull this out and make sure there's anything else here. Cleaning up. So in this presentation, like I said, this is at edgamer.net. The presentation is. I have a permission form that's there, and it gives a breakdown of time. And then I'm going to put this information here. So, this one. So this is in the presentation, but I have some links from Minecraft, the book, all my Symbaloo links, the EdGamer site, and then you can also follow me on Twitter. Kind of went through that. That's usually probably a half-day workshop when I go through all of this and we actually play games. And I did this in Galesburg a couple weeks ago up in Northwest Illinois. And having the teachers and administrators play games, it was a blast. We don't, playful learning to me is not only for the kids, it should be for adults. We need to have playful learning too, and not be so stressed out. Any questions?
No, I think you addressed everything. So why don't I just open the floor so people can unmute themselves and ask any questions or what have you. What is it, like 10 seconds for the awkward pause for someone to ask a question? Well, in any case,
I covered it so well.
I know, Zach. You did a great job, fantastic job, and this is a very exciting space. We actually spent a lot of time on our K-12 Federation call earlier talking about this, and it's definitely emerging. So, it can be quite overwhelming. You definitely presented a lot of material, and I've got a lot more questions in terms of if I was to try to start something like this, how I would do it. But I think this material has been fantastic, and I thank you so much for your limited. I know you got limited time.
They haven't come back yet, but there's a couple things I wanted to share here. So like I said, this is at edgamer.net, and the presentation is right there. It's a PDF, so you can click on that. The links are in there. Everything's for you there. And I'm just telling you, just to end on this, if you have not heard about, if you've not looked at, if you've thought that esports is not a thing, the gaming industry as a whole is very close, if not surpassing Hollywood. and billions of dollars. So it's growing. The Big Ten Network has started televising some events with the clubs, the Big Ten schools. UC Irvine is giving college scholarships, 10 scholarships. Robert Morris is doing it. I am meeting with people here at Illinois State and getting a tournament, esports tournament here, League of Legends, this spring. And it's going to take off. And it's a great sport, and it really gets more kids involved. So if you have any questions about that, yeah, just let me know. Follow me on Twitter and send me a message. I think that's about it. And now I have students coming back. So I will stop share here, Jat.
All right. So again, Zach, thank you very much. And, people have got my contact information. So if you don't have Zach's, it should have been in the announcement. But if you want to connect with Zach and can't find his information, feel free to proxy that through me. And other than that, thank you everyone for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Take care. Game
Thanks,
on.
Zach.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.